The RV market just flipped upside down. Between 2024 and 2025, millions of used rigs hit the market, and prices collapsed almost overnight.
The RV industry says California's zero-emission rules are driving out business. Fox's Max Gordon is at an RV dealership in Fountain Valley, California, with more.
Dealer lots look like parking lots. Owners are trapped in loans they can't escape, and the so-called correction has turned into a full-blown crash. That 120,000 motorhomes from last year? It might not even clear 90 now, but the real story isn't just about falling prices. It's about what happens next, because the second wave of this collapse is already building. The day the lots overflowed, what used to be neat rows of inventory now looked like metallic fields. Aisles so tight the haulers could barely turn. Dealers built space for 500 units, but many are now holding close to 700. National estimates show nearly 4 million rigs sitting idle across America, the highest count ever recorded. That's not demand, that's gridlock. Each of those unsold units represents money frozen in place. The banners still promise spring savings, but the truth is those price cuts aren't promotions, they're lifelines. Dealers need cash flow, and the only way to get it is to slash prices far enough to move something, anything, off the lot. For viewers holding an RV from the boom years, this oversupply is already cutting into your trade-in value. The same rig that fetched $120,000 in early 2024 might not clear 90 this fall. This wasn't just about overproduction. The real shock came when millions of used rigs suddenly reappeared, hitting a market that was already saturated. And that's where the next problem started. The oversupply didn't end at the factory gates. It kept rolling in, shipments up, buyers down. While dealer lots filled to bursting, factories kept shipping as if demand had never cooled. According to the latest Recreational Vehicle Industry Association data, wholesale shipments climbed by nearly 12% in the first quarter of 2025, even as retail registrations fell by more than 15%. That mismatch means new rigs are still pouring in when the old ones haven't moved. Dealers signed those orders months in advance, back when analysts were still predicting a steady rebound. Now they're trapped between contracts they can't cancel and buyers they can't find. Trucks unload rows of glossy 2025 models that sit in the sun, depreciating by the day. The longer they stay parked, the deeper the markdowns must go to make room for the next shipment. For the average buyer, that's both a warning and an opportunity. Discounts will grow, but only because the system is cracking. The prices you see this month aren't generosity, they're triage. If the factory pipeline keeps flowing at this pace, fall will bring the steepest markdowns yet. And for dealers, every unsold rig isn't just dead weight, it's debt-gathering interest. If you're watching this and seeing the same price drops where you live, hit that like button and drop your zip code below. Let's map where the flood's hitting hardest. The floor plan time bomb. Behind every shiny new unit on a lot sits a loan. It's called a floor plan, a line of credit dealers use to stock inventory before it sells. On paper, it looks harmless, but with interest rates hovering at their highest levels in over a decade, that financing has turned toxic. Every day an RV sits unsold, the dealer pays interest on its value. A leaked financing sheet from a Midwestern chain shows the math in plain view. A $200,000 fifth wheel accrues nearly $40 a day in financing costs. Multiply that by hundreds of units, and you can see why managers are panicking. The longer those rigs stay, the more money bleeds out of the balance sheet. That's why markdowns are hitting faster and deeper. It's not about moving product, it's about survival. For you, this pressure means dealers are suddenly open to negotiations they wouldn't touch a year ago. Cash buyers, especially, now hold the upper hand, but that financial squeeze is only half the story. While new inventory drowns dealers in debt, the used market has begun a collapse of its own, one that's pulling down values across every class of rig. The real crash is showing up where owners least expected it, in their driveways. Used values start to slide. At auctions from Indiana to Arizona, the numbers tell the same story. According to the latest Black Book report, used Class C motorhomes are down 44% year over year, and fifth wheels have fallen nearly 38%. That's not a dip, that's a freefall. Units that sold for $100,000 last spring are now struggling to clear 60. Dealers call it price discovery, but owners call it what it is, loss. Families who bought during the pandemic boom are discovering their rigs are worth far less than their remaining loans. Negative equity equity is spreading, and banks are tightening terms to protect themselves. For anyone thinking of trading up, be ready for lowball offers that feel like insults, because they are. The market's flooded, and every extra rig pushes yours lower. If you're holding out, understand this slide hasn't found bottom yet. Used prices tend to trail new inventory by about 1/4, meaning the full hit of this glut will keep showing up through winter. For buyers, patience could pay off. For sellers, the window to exit without a loss is closing fast. And the real question everyone's asking now is simple. Where did all these rigs come from, and how many more are still on the way? Where the millions came from, the flood didn't appear out of nowhere. It began with a pandemic surge that saw record numbers of first-time buyers rushing into the RV market between 2020 and 2023. Dealers couldn't keep inventory in stock. Back then, lines wrapped around lots, and used rigs were selling above sticker price. By the time production finally caught up, interest rates had doubled, and fuel prices were biting into travel budgets. Suddenly, the buyers who once treated their RVs as freedom on wheels were facing loan payments they no longer wanted. Ownership data from state registration offices confirms it. Trade-ins and private listings have tripled since early 2024. Many of those sellers are retirees trying to offload rigs they barely used. Others are families who bought at pandemic peaks and now owe more than their units are worth. What began as enthusiasm for the open road has turned into a mass exit. Every one of those rigs feeds back into an already saturated pipeline, crushing resale prices further. This time, the sellers aren't just downsizing, they're bailing out, and not all of them are walking into dealerships by choice. Because some RVs didn't get listed at all. They were taken repo rows and auction lines. Drive past any major auction yard in Indiana or Florida, and you'll see the proof lined up in silence. Hundreds of rigs with paper tags, taped notices, and wheel locks still on. Repossession companies are busier than they've been in over 10 years. Rising interest rates and soft resale demand have triggered a wave of defaults that lenders can no longer hide. Once an RV crosses 90 days past due, the tow trucks move fast. Auction data shows that repos now make up nearly 1 in every 3 units sold wholesale. Some rigs are nearly new, with odometers reading under 5,000 miles. Banks have no interest in holding inventory, so they dump these units at steep discounts, often 30 to 40% below retail book value. That means dealers and cash buyers can pick them up cheap, but financing them afterward is harder as lenders tighten credit standards. The optics are grim. Endless rows of expensive machines now worth less than the loans that built them. Each one a reminder that even the most optimistic market can turn overnight. And as repos rise, the consequences reach far beyond the lot gates. Because even the factories that once couldn't build fast enough are now slamming the brakes. Factories flinch. When the flood of unsold rigs hit, manufacturers had no choice but to pull back. In their most recent quarterly reports, both Winnebago and Thor Industries warned investors about shrinking demand and excess dealer inventory. Production schedules that once ran 6 days a week have been trimmed to 4. Suppliers are reporting canceled orders and reduced shifts. For the first time since 2019, some plants in northern Indiana are going dark midweek to save on power and payroll. These cutbacks ripple through entire towns. Cafes that thrived on factory workers' breakfasts now sit half empty. Transport companies that used to haul finished RVs cross-country are parking trucks instead. The slowdown isn't just an industry statistic, it's a local economy stalling in real time. For owners, there's another consequence. Fewer factory hours mean fewer parts rolling off the line and fewer technicians available for warranty work. A cracked panel or failing slide-out could now take months to replace. The supply chain that once felt like a convenience now feels like a liability. But while the factories tighten belts, families who already bought in are discovering a different kind of pressure. One measured in monthly payments. Freedom turned to payments. For thousands of owners, the dream of freedom has turned into a spreadsheet of losses. Take a family who bought a 2022 fifth wheel for $98,000 with a 7-year loan. They still owe around $80,000, but the same model now lists for $55,000. That's $25,000 in negative equity. And they can't sell without bringing cash to the table. Stories like this are pouring into forums and credit unions nationwide. One retiree in Texas summed it up best. It was supposed to be our house on wheels. Now it's a bill we can't get rid of. Fuel costs rose, campground fees followed, and maintenance never got cheaper. The result is a financial trap that feels impossible to escape. Some owners have tried refinancing to lower payments, but that only stretches the pain. The banks win twice, interest once, and then again over time. For anyone still paying on a late model R-vee, the smartest move might be to hold and ride out the storm. Refinancing a depreciating asset is the surest way to lose twice. And with so many owners desperate to offload debt, the next wave of this collapse is already forming online. The private listing avalanche. The next wave of the crash isn't rolling off transport trucks, it's showing up online. Open R-vee Trader, Facebook Marketplace, or Craigslist and scroll for 1 minute. The pattern is obvious. Pages of nearly new rigs listed by private owners. In 2023, those sites carried around 150,000 used RVs nationwide. Today, that number has more than tripled. Industry trackers estimate a rise of roughly 280% in private listings since early 2024. At first glance, it looks like opportunity, more choice, better deals, fewer middlemen. But this avalanche hides risk. Prices are all over the map. Some sellers anchor to last year's inflated values, while others slash listings just to escape their loans. A buyer who doesn't track current wholesale values can easily overpay for a rig that's still sinking in price. For you, this flood means leverage if you do your homework, loss if you don't. Every listing is another owner under pressure, but not all of them are being honest about why they're selling. And some of those rigs carry more baggage than the photos reveal, because once you start reading the fine print, the traps appear fast. Paperwork traps and hidden damage. The best-looking deal online can unravel in a single document. Many of the units now flooding the private market still have active liens, meaning the bank technically owns the title. If a buyer transfers money before that loan clears, they could end up paying for a rig they can't register. It happens more often than people think. One lender recently flagged over 3,000 cases where unpaid liens delayed ownership transfers for months. Then there's the mechanical side. Dealers run inspections before listing a trade-in. Private sellers usually don't. A clean-looking travel trailer might hide roof leaks sealed with paint or electrical issues from years of storage. Mechanics in several states report a spike in pre-purchase inspections, uncovering cracked frames and soft floors that sellers never mentioned. For cautious buyers, the fix is simple. Verify the title through the state registry and never skip an independent inspection. A $200 checkup can save tens of thousands later. The safest move isn't buying fast, it's buying clean. And if you're wondering when those clean deals turn into real bargains, that comes down to timing. The calendar matters more than the ad. The model year cliff. Every late summer, a quiet shift happens across dealership lots. New model year rigs start arriving while the previous year's units still sit unsold. That overlap creates what insiders call the model year cliff, a 30-day window when last year's inventory suddenly turns into a liability. In late August through September, dealers scramble to clear 2025 stock before 2026 VINs hit the trucks. The result is steep markdowns that have nothing to do with demand. A fifth wheel that listed at $105,000 in July might be offered for $85,000 by October. The difference is pure timing. Dealers would rather lose $15,000 now than carry the interest for another season. For you, this is the single best period to negotiate. Walk in with a pre-approved loan or cash and ask to see leftover stock. Many managers will cut deals just to reset their books, but the key is to know the exact crossover month for your region, since delivery schedules vary by climate. Because even with perfect timing, there's one more factor that can widen your savings, and it's measured in miles, not months. If you want the next update before the dealers spin their story, hit subscribe right now. We track the real numbers, not the sales pitches. Stay ahead, stay sharp. Map hacking the market. America's RV market isn't one market at all. It's a patchwork. In Texas, near the border and along major interstates, retail sales remain brisk. Some dealers there move inventory within days. But head east to the Carolinas or up through Pennsylvania, and you'll find lots stacked with unsold rigs and price-reduced banners gathering dust. Data from nationwide listing platforms shows gaps of $10,000 to $15,000 on identical models depending on region. That difference can turn a frustrating search into a five-figure win. Smart buyers use nationwide search filters and treat distance like currency. A drive of 400 miles might cost a few hundred in fuel, but save $10,000 off the purchase price. Some buyers have even booked one-way flights to weaker markets. Signed papers and driven their new rigs home for less than local quotes. Because as buyers grow sharper and more mobile, dealers are already changing tactics to claw back control. The Dealer Playbook 2025 edition. When discounts stop working, dealers reach for tricks. The new playbook is designed to make losses look like wins and to keep customers from realizing where the real costs hide. Contracts now bundle free maintenance packages, extended warranties, and loyalty accessories that seem generous but quietly rebuild the margin lost on the sticker price. That zero-down deal? It usually stretches the loan term, pushing buyers into higher total payments while the dealer collects back-end incentives from the lender. A leaked purchase order from a Midwest chain shows a fifth wheel advertised at $95,000, but carrying $7,000 in hidden add-ons disguised as protection plans and delivery fees. The salesman earns a bonus for every buyer who signs without asking for line item details. For cautious buyers, the defense is simple but powerful. Request the out-the-door number in writing, not the monthly payment. These tactics reveal a survival instinct, not greed. Dealers are fighting to plug holes in their balance sheets as floor plan interest eats profits alive. Yet no matter how clever the paperwork gets, the bigger threat isn't on the lot. It's in the economy shaping every loan, shipment, and paycheck. Because even the smartest dealers can't outsmart rising rates and global costs, rates, credit, and tariffs. The financial backdrop of this collapse reads like a perfect storm. Interest rates remain the highest in over a decade, hovering near levels that make financing a luxury item almost impossible for average families. Banks that once approved 1 out of every 2 R-vee loans are now approving barely 1 out of 3. Lenders have quietly tightened standards, demanding larger down payments and shorter terms to protect themselves from defaults. Then there's the hidden hit from tariffs. A new round of import fees on aluminum components, wiring harnesses, and appliances has raised production costs by as much as 12% for some manufacturers. Those expenses are trickling down to buyers as mandatory surcharges buried in dealer invoices. The result is a squeeze from both sides, higher financing costs and inflated materials pricing. These pressures explain why buyers who were pre-approved last year are being turned away now, even with solid credit. Affordability has fallen faster than demand, freezing a chunk of the market. As the credit pool dries up, factories receive fewer orders, and layoffs spread outward like ripples on water. And when the factories slow, the pain doesn't stay on the production line. It hits the streets of the towns that built them. Main Street after the boom. In Elkhart, Indiana, the heart of America's R-vee manufacturing corridor, the slowdown is no longer theory. Employment data shows factory shifts cut by nearly 30% since mid-2024. Local news broadcasts show once crowded parking lots half empty, restaurants offering shift worker specials, now struggling to fill tables, and parts suppliers closing quietly after decades in business. The ripple effect is visible in every direction. When production stops, the service economy around it weakens. Fewer workers mean fewer customers for diners, repair shops, and campgrounds. Local hardware stores that thrived on small R-vee part orders now report weeks without shipments. Even regional trucking companies are downsizing fleets as deliveries dry up. For many residents, this crash feels like déjà vu, a repeat of the early 2008 downturn, just dressed in fiberglass and chrome. For R-vee owners, this community fallout has a direct wallet consequence. Longer repair times, fewer technicians, and rising labor costs. When a water heater fails or a slide-out jams, parts that once arrived in days may now take months. The slowdown has become personal, and while small towns fight to stay alive, the noise of collapse has finally reached Washington, where new rules are being drafted in real time. Rules, labor, and the next reset. When industries stumble, policymakers move in. On Capitol Hill, early proposals are circulating to regulate R-vee financing, require full disclosure of loan structures, and protect buyers from predatory service contracts. Consumer advocacy groups are lobbying for limits on interest markups and for clear title verification rules to curb the rise in private sale disputes. Dealers warn this could choke recovery, but lawmakers see an opening to rewrite the rules after years of light oversight. At the same time, a quieter shift is happening on the ground. In factory towns across the Midwest, line workers are discussing collective bargaining for the first time in years. Informal labor groups are sharing wage data online, pushing for safer conditions and guaranteed minimum hours. The same frustration that started with layoffs is turning into organization. For buyers and owners, these movements matter. New regulations could reshape warranties, resale protections, and even dealer pricing transparency. The next reset won't just happen on the lots. It will happen in law books and shop floors. The R-vee crash is just getting started, and the next moves will decide who wins or loses. Hit subscribe, drop a comment, and like this video to stay ahead.